What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. I have two very special guests this episode. It's been a first time since I've had any of these guys on the show, and I'd like to welcome Andrew and Charlie on the podcast today. What is going on, guys?
Hello.
What is up?
This is a crazy day because, we planned this to, do this podcast, and, we thought, oh yeah, we still have, about 9 or 8 days left of the campaign. But as of this recording of this episode, we smashed the goal for the Keeper's Diary.
Oh,
It's happening, guys. This is such a crazy time, just talking about it, promoting it, but like it's finally hit its goal, and it's going to happen. This dream project is going to be happening. It's just incredible, and I can't thank the community enough for like just all the support and everyone just spreading the word. I mean, even if people didn't get a chance to donate, you still can. There's still perks available. But like just sharing it and talking about it helped out so much, and this is just an incredible day to see this happening.
yeah, man.
Yeah, I was floored.
Yeah. We smashed that goal today. It's at 109%, just shy of 44,000 in donations, 502 backers, 9 days left to go. That's just insane. We had the most insane boost within the last 12 plus hours with those executive producer perk donations. We had a couple associate producer perk donations. That's what really kind of launched it over the edge. So to those of you guys that donated and bought those perks, thank you. So everybody that bought perks, I mean, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. You're amazing. You're the best. And for those of you that shared the link as well and got the word out there, yeah, you guys are awesome. So thank you so much for everyone's support.
Yeah, it was nuts just to see, that, to really have the fans, really speak up and kind of say, you know what, this is kind of an opportunity to see a project where it's really going to be made from the heart and love of the franchise, and yeah. I think that's what people saw in that campaign. And when we launched everything, it was like, okay, yeah, they're really trying to. And a lot of people were asking questions too, like even in my live stream, like yeah, just different things, like how are you guys gonna do certain things, or how are things gonna be pulled off. And I told people not to worry, because it's gonna be something that we are gonna take very seriously now that especially everything is good to go, and we'll be able to make this a project that's gonna be something that no one's ever seen for any kind of live adaptation for Resident Evil. Like, we're trying to set the bar here.
Yeah, and I can tell your audience that everything is planned. I mean, we have a plan for production design, we have a plan for visual effects, we have a plan for special effects, makeup. Like, we got it all planned, so it's all there, without going into too many details. But in regards to how things are going to get done, like, there's a plan behind it. So each person has been assigned to their department in the film. So I mean, once those dates in October come, we're ready to go. So
yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's definitely such a great feeling to know that we're gonna keep putting stuff in motion. And I wanted to, especially having Charlie on here as well, because, this is a great opportunity to talk to you, Charlie, as well. If people don't know, you should know that you are the OG Chris Redfield from the original RE1, from the, live action cutscene, and, the opening that's kind of burned into our memories just as RE fans, and this is something where, there's not a lot. I never had an opportunity. The only person I talked to from the first game who did the voice acting was on the voice acting side of things anyway, was Pablo Kuntz. I've talked to him. So I've never had anyone else on the show that was associated with the game in that regard. So I kind of wanted to wind the clocks back a little bit with just the celebration of Resident Evil and us kind of talking about it. How was that kind of that entry into getting contacted by Capcom or presented with that project back then? I'd like to hear that story.
Oh, sure. So at that time, I was wearing two hats. I was a full-time actor, did some modeling, did some voiceovers, but I was also working as a talent agent, as like a casting manager, handling other Western talent. And so the agency I worked for, IMO, got the exclusive for that job, and they listened a lot to what our agency recommended. So I was kind of a shoe-in, and basically I had no idea what it was about, but it was the coolest thing that I had ever landed, and I knew it was something special. The whole production was very secretive throughout, and that's just kind of the way it is with Capcom, and they were trying to just tell us as little as possible. So it was kind of an interesting experience. And then the long and the short of it is that just because of copyright things and the name being Resident Evil here, and it was Biohazard there, I didn't even realize I was a part of it, in a 20 years or something. It was like 2018 or something that I kind of put it all together. So it's just a weird sort of scenario where we all landed here now, and we're doing these amazing things together, and I couldn't be more thankful. And like today just felt like a big, huge relief, just like a weight off my shoulder.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when I think a lot of people have so many amazing stories and attachments to this franchise over the 27 years and counting that it's been, going on. So I think that's why a lot of people kind of have a real attachment to it, especially with a franchise going on this long, and there's so many different forms of it coming out between the years. And I think it's crazy how people are still kind of discovering it and going back and finding the older games, especially the original that started it all. I mean, it really was such an iconic game at that time, and it still is. I mean, it still carries on where people still want to play the old games, and they still want to play and live stream stuff, do mods that keep these games alive. And I think that just shows it's a true testament of how it affected us just growing up, and how it's stuck with us, and it goes through generations. As far as the process behind even filming that scene, that intro scene, how was that in terms of that process? Was it one of those things where you just kind of went in and you were kind of just meeting everyone for the first time, at least all the actors that were also on set? How was that initial process with filming that? Was it, how many days was it? What was it behind that scene?
Yeah, so there was a time where all the people that were selected, it was a project that was basically photo selection, so there was no audition. And then the people that were selected first came to a fitting, and that was the first time we were all together. So that was one day. And then in my case, I had a few more days with a hair salon, so they could dye my hair. Well, they just used peroxide on my hair. And shooting was, I think, a total of 3 days for me.
Okay.
The location where we did the scenes, in the tall grass, and then another day in the studio where we did the credits, and then another day on another location where we did the helicopter, the ending scene. And that was basically it. And there wasn't a lot of information about it. It was just kind of very vague. I think they told us a little bit of backstory about our characters, and that it was a video game, but they didn't really tell us too much about, what the whole concept of it, because they just didn't want it to leak out.
Yeah, it's like them trying to keep everything as, as secret as possible, and trying to, just especially with that at the time, I think, them also utilizing the those kind of the live action, cutscenes and stuff like that. That was such a unique thing, especially with PlayStation at the time, because they were kind of taking advantage of that technology. So just seeing that, I just remember that was just so cool as a kid, because my dad got the game, and that's kind of how I stumbled into it, because he just had it around, and I just remember seeing that, and I was just like, I'd never seen anything like it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it from that, because then they moved to obviously CGI cutscenes in the games after that. But man, yeah, that was definitely it's just such a iconic. All those scenes are, and it's cool to hear some of that backstory, because for a while it seemed like it was hard to kind of get in contact with some people who were involved with the project, or like you said, you kind of put the pieces together in like 2018. You're just like, oh, okay, like this was that when you realized, like, oh wow, like this there's a massive fan base, and also people trying to reach out and talk to me about this.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to put it together, and I honestly thought, that we were just going to blow the lid off this crowdfunding right out of the gates, and I was getting nervous about it, because it kind of slowed down after about 60% for, quite a few days, and then just out of left field, everything just all fell into place. And I think it's just taking a little longer for the word to get out in the community, but it seems like it's taking on like a virus, shall we say?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing too. I think the fans are just excited to see everyone that's attached to it, and everyone just getting excited to really see what fans can really do with something that is something that's so near and dear to our hearts, and how we would like to handle it. Because for years, some people would say, oh well, if you're gonna sit here online or do a video and criticize a movie, like how I would review a live action RE film and talk about it and say certain things and be like, all right, well, let me see you do better. What could you do? And now it's like, it's kind of like that I'm a part of this project, and we're all serious about making this happen. Now it's like we're putting the pedal to the metal here. It's like, that's kind of what this Keeper's Diary project is about, is really just really showing what we can bring to the table. And like you said, the fans definitely show kind of that passion that, again, kind of goes with a franchise that's been going on for this long, that it seems like it's almost like it happens. It's a mainstream game, but it's also like, some people don't even know how big RE fans actually are, or how dedicated they are. Very much like horror fans, where it's like, it's such a dedicated community. So people are going to be there for, anything like this, or get behind something like this when they realize that there's some genuine passion that's going behind it. And one thing that I was going to ask you, Charlie, is like, did you have, like, when you were getting into acting or being an actor, like who were some of your influences? Like who did you look up to, like, growing up? Did you have like that person you're like, oh man, I want to be that guy, or you saw a movie, you're just
Oh
like, that
yeah,
just changed my life?
sure. Yeah, like number one is Clint Eastwood for me, and
Yes.
just all the stars of that time. And growing up in Japan, uh, I was always just trying to watch Western films on TV, because I just wasn't that into the Japanese TV and films. They weren't that interesting. And I also, being an American but born in Japan, had this natural curiosity. And, we would vacation in America, like in California and Hawaii, and things like that. And, so I'd get a taste of it. But I, would stay up late at night watching, films like The Great Escape, or Bridge over River Kwai, or Force 10 from Navarone. I was like, it'd be like 11 o'clock at night, and I would just creep down the stairs to watch those kind of movies after the whole family had gone to bed. And I've always kind of been just a large consumer of media that way. and things like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, like all these classic American movies with whether it be like Paul Newman or just I guess Steve McQueen is probably the quintessential for me, but Clint Eastwood, hands down, like the Sergio Leone movies. That's what I wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's just. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
That's weird. You've been saying that the last couple days, and it's funny because when I first met you, I didn't know that, and then here we are shooting this Western-esque take on your, I guess, revisit with Wesker.
Right.
So it's
It
kind
had
of
that
funny
feel.
how that.
Yeah.
It's funny how that worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like that's especially during that time of when, we actually had like real movie stars, like people that were, like just so iconic in so many ways, and that's kind of lost now, where it's like you don't have the people like that anymore. Like there's a few still hanging on, but now it's just like, just that era, that era of Hollywood is it just seems like it's lost. To have those stars like
Right.
that.
Well, if they want a middle-aged action star, here I am.
Yeah, Charlie Wick.
What the world needs now is another aging action star.
Well,
the next John Wick movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of action movies that are coming out, so it's like we could probably make that work. I know, but that's the thing. I also wanted to ask you, Andrew, with like on that topic of filmmaking for you, as well, like being a filmmaker. I mean, what was kind of like that moment for you? What was it? Was it a certain movie or a certain era that really kind of drew you into that world of filmmaking? Of like, I want to do this.
Say that a lot of Spielberg's movies are definitely some of my favorites. I mean, my favorite movie of all time is Schindler's List. And I'd say my favorite horror film of all time is The Shining. So I definitely like a lot of the old school filmmakers. I even like, a lot of Hitchcock's films. Like just all the greats, man. I like Kubrick, Carpenter, Sam Raimi, just a lot of those guys. George, like I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm a big George Lucas Star Wars fan. I'm not the biggest Disney Star Wars fan. And to me, I mean, Star Wars is George Lucas. Dave. I know there's a lot of Dave Filoni fans out there, but it just doesn't feel like Star Wars to me. Like his show is cool and wonderful. It's Dave Filoni Star Wars. It's not George Lucas Star Wars. So, and that's what was always special about Resident Evil to me is the craft that is Shinji Mikami. Like Resident Evil is very much Shinji Mikami, and now that he's gone to a different company or retired, I don't know if he's retired now or moved on to another company, but the games since have been fun. They just don't have that same feeling, when you watch a Spielberg film, you're like, it's a Spielberg film. It feels like a Spielberg film.
Sure.
You just don't get that feeling anymore with Resident Evil. It's new, it's fun, it's different. It's not any worse. But that's what really hit home for me was the way that he told the story.
Yeah, I mean that's you're right. It's almost like the seeing how, especially with a Japanese company like Capcom, and they have they see a lot of the American films and they kind of are influenced by that, and especially with one of my favorites, George A. Romero. I mean, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I mean, those are like some of my favorites of all times. And seeing them, especially even I talked about this when I had Beggy on, and about the Night of the Living Dead, 1990 remake, where Capcom also looked at that as a huge influence as well, even the remake, before they did the first game. And that, kind of depicted Barbara in a different way as well. And I thought that was kind of cool. That seemed like kind of like a plug-in for Jill in a way, but obviously they switched it up with having, teams go in and stuff like that, like a little bit different than Night of the Living Dead. But that isolation, that feeling, it's something that even the first trilogy has a certain kind of vibe as well. But I think the first game always kind of had something that was a little bit different, a different feeling than 2 and 3. They all complement each other very well, but the first one, there's just something about that original game. And then even if you want to include remake in that, but even before remake, just the original, just going back to it, it always just has a certain vibe that just seems to stand out over 2 and 3. And 3 is like, Resident Evil 3 is like my favorite game of all time, but I still consider the trilogy in, the original trilogy as like, some of my top favorite Resident Evil games. So it just shows that, like, how consistent they were. But like you said, there's something about that first game with just like how Mikami captured that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think with a lot of the differences between kind of what the current Resident Evil games have now is because they started to implement different layers of action, different things, trying to make it a little bit more modern. And I think that's why I know a lot of people always kind of talked about, them going back to, will they ever go back to that original style? And I think that, obviously it's not really going to sell if you do fixed camera angles as, in 2023, probably not. Now, Tormented Souls, for example, that's a horror game that came out and did it recently. That was pretty good. I actually liked it. But, I think there's something about the old school fixed camera angle style that I always loved about those games, even though it seems dated by many that come in and play them for the first time today. There's just something about it that I love. Something about that limited technology that they worked with what they had, and it's just, there's something special about that.
Yeah, there really is. I think it was very impressive what they did with 2 to still make you feel like you didn't know what was around the corner, even though it was over the shoulder in the remake. So yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and that's why I still, in my opinion, I love RE2 remake and stuff like that as well. And but I think Resident Evil remake from 2002, that's still my favorite remake of all time. As
that game is just beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's how you do it, and I think, and I still love the original just as much. So, and that's the one thing, because a lot of people ask, when these remakes come out, like, does it replace it? Does it? And I don't think, I never agree with that statement of anything replacing anything. I still like the original and the remakes, both, as they come out. But I don't think one necessarily replaces the other, especially in a case where, like, I can play remake and it's improved clearly from what they did on the GameCube at that time. But you could see those differences. But like, I still like the original just as much. I still have that connection to that. And, I think as far as, trying to, kind of make something that is, I don't know, just more like how people remember survival horror, because I think survival horror is it's gone through different waves, and now it seems to be coming back with all these remakes and people are excited again. So I think with a lot of these, these things kind of coming up with remakes coming back and IPs coming back from the dead, or if they've been on hiatus for a while, I think now's the time for a lot of fans to kind of get excited for everything that's coming out, and in a big way, But in terms of, like, I guess if we're going to talk about, like, bring it back a little bit to the early 2000s, right? Let's wind it back before that. Were you, I know with the George A. Romero script, we talked about George A. Romero. When you saw that, that was happening, were you excited, kind of being a Romero fan, when you saw that, like, he could potentially be, I know everyone was probably younger, but seeing that, seeing George A. Romero almost being able to create this Resident Evil film, and then it didn't really happen, like, were you excited about that potentially happening? Because obviously what we got was completely different by the time Anderson started to kind of get on board with that. But like, I personally would have loved to see it happen, even though it was a little bit different, you know?
Yeah, I think I was a little too young at the time, but I do remember when I found out, I was like, why?
Yeah.
You have the godfather of zombie films, and he didn't make like the godfather of zombie games. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I know he did the commercials in Japan for RE2, or for
Yeah.
Biohazard 2, I should say. But yeah, it's almost just like, man, what happened there? And I know, you know, I'm really excited to see that documentary come out as well. You know, I'm excited to see kind of what that, because I kind of always was so fascinated by that script and like just the behind the scenes about that, you know, it was always just fascinated me. And how it just never happened, or like, you know, if they were just moving on in different directions, you know. And it would have been cool to see his, like, you know, Pittsburgh style approach of filmmaking, you know what I mean? He probably would have set that thing in Pittsburgh, you know, no doubt.
Oh yeah, yeah, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
That'll be an exciting documentary to see. I really can't wait for that to get released. The trailer was fantastic. Yeah, that's gonna be one to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I
And
forget. Do we know when that comes out?
I would imagine sometime in the first quarter of next year.
okay,
If I had to
First quarter
guess.
next year.
If I had to guess, yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
So
Yeah, he's got a lot of really, really, really cool guests on that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. And yeah, like I said, that was always so fascinating with me. And I was gonna ask, I guess it's kind of a question for both of you guys, but in terms of like, you know, when did you kind of see the RE films, if in terms of the Paul Anderson films? Did you see them as they came out, or did any of you guys kind of know of, because some of the films, especially, you know, making so much money, some people just knew RE just from those live action films, unfortunately. I mean, I hope people would actually see where the source material came from, because it's completely different than kind of what we got. But as far as like, you know, as someone who is also passionate about filmmaking, like, did you just kept having just some kind of like just walking away from those movies like just pissed off, just be like, look, man, like something has to give with these movies, you know, like, so like what is going on here, like, or did you kind of enjoy the first couple because they were like B movies, and then you're just like, and then by the time, because for me, by the time Afterlife came on, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of checked out of this one.
yeah. Do you want to go first, Charlie?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not sure when I saw those movies. I've seen several of those, you know, Paul Anderson movies, but you know, I didn't go pay to see it at a theater, so it would have just been on a rerun at some point. And I think, you know, it might have felt somewhat familiar, but I think I just never put it all together. So it was just like, oh, okay, this one's free, and I watched it, kind of a thing. And I haven't even seen Welcome to Raccoon City yet. But yeah, I hear I'm not missing much.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think a lot of people were, you know, they were excited for a second, you know what I mean? They thought that my cat, of course, they thought that that they were gonna have to, you know, gonna wait to see some kind of perfect film that was gonna be, you know, hitting all the check marks for, you know, stuff for Resident Evil 1 and 2. But for me, I think Welcome to Raccoon City was the real big disappointment, because they tried to do everything in one film, and it was just, yeah, it was very, very much a disappointment for me. And I feel like, I know some people do like it out there, just like how they like every film. Some people do, but I couldn't really get behind them trying to put that much in a movie, and them trying to skip over like major things, especially things that happened in the first game, where it's like, why didn't you just make it its own film? And obviously, between that and the Netflix series, don't get me started with that. I mean, that's just like a whole train wreck. So I think a lot of the last couple years, I think people have been like, okay, yeah, we'll probably, we're probably not going to get a proper Resident Evil film from the big suits in Hollywood that are calling the shots over there. It just seems to be like one disappointment after the next. And the Anderson films alone went from 2002 to like 2017, I think, was Final Chapter. So it's like it was such a big chunk of time. And then people got let down again from Welcome to Raccoon City. Mostly, most people, most fans. So I feel like it's like one punch after the next when it comes to some of these, Hollywood live adaptations that people just get bummed out. They're like, man, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, but they were able to do it on HBO with The Last of Us, right? So it's possible to do it.
Right. Yeah, I even like Twisted Metal on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually a really fun, because they did something fun with that. They kind of took it and it wasn't trying to be anything crazy. And even with Last of Us, like there's things that I did like about it. There's things that I wish they did a little bit better. But it was still, like you said, it was the money still going in the right places where they tried to do certain things, and it seemed like, okay, depending on who they have on board, you can tell why things went a certain way, or the writers or director. Like with shows, I feel like it was a little bit more of you have a little bit of some breathing room to kind of establish some characters. You can take the time, and that's why I thought the show with the Resident Evil show being like its own thing, trying to do its own thing, it was such a wasted opportunity for them to say, hey, what if we actually made it based on the games, and we took our time and explained everything, and maybe showcased the first 3 games in a very like set pace for a show. And it wasn't like you had to force everything in this hour 40-minute film, and they just didn't really do that. They just kept going further and further away from that. So it just blows my mind that they never really put that in, because now that shows are kind of in, or video game shows are in, they didn't even hit that right with Resident Evil. So it was just a real big bum out for sure. Just back and forth, because Welcome to Raccoon City was like, I think, a year before that. So it was like, man, it was like the 1-2 disappointment right there, And yeah, I just think that some people can get it right, but it just takes that that one person to kind of make that bad suggestion to be like, oh, babe, what if we just did this, or what if we did that? And then they're like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then it spirals to just something that's just going to completely disappoint the fans. And yeah, I just think that for so many years that people getting burned from these adaptations. But I think, bringing it back to Keeper's Diary, I think that's kind of why a lot of this kind of got, we got inspired to do something like this. But I wanted to kind of talk about the origins of Keeper's Diary. Like, when did you, Andrew, like, when did you think, like, okay, you know what, like, I think now's the time to do this? Because sure, there's been Resident Evil fan films before, there's been stuff on, YouTube, little things here and there. But what was your decision, like, when you were like, you know what, I think we're going to make this happen? Was it especially like after the run of films we got? I'm sure that also didn't help. You were just like, okay, I have this sour kind of taste in my mouth from these films. Was that kind of the thing that inspired it in the beginning?
The second the credits started rolling in Welcome to Raccoon City.
Okay.
When I made my decision.
The second those credits rolled. Okay. That's fair.
The credits started rolling. I can't tell you how angry I was when I walked out of that movie theater.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah. I definitely remember that vividly from my perspective, where I was just like, man, we waited for that, like people were getting excited for that. Like I just couldn't believe what I just saw.
It was just such a big letdown, because they were advertising it like it was going to actually have something to do with the games, which maybe here and there it did, but for the most part, it just took things from the game and put it in the movie and changed everything else. So, like when I saw them posting photos of them actually building, the front of the RPD or the front of the Spencer Mansion, I was like, okay,
yeah,
what they're gonna do with this. Like it kind of looks hopeful. I don't want to get my hopes up too high, because I knew it was still a Constantine product.
Right.
But yeah, I went and seen it, and I just don't understand, man. I just don't get it. Like, I don't mean to rip on fans of the movies or anything. I don't understand them. But I do understand that people like them. Um, it's just not for me, you know. Resident Evil fans, we grew up with something, and we fell in love with it, and you know, it just hurts to see it bastardized. Even though if you look at it as its own thing, it can still be fun, but you know, it's it's kind of taking away from what it could be. So it's unfortunate, but you know, I don't know. Maybe someday they'll make a really good adaptation that you know will turn a mass audience on, and also do its job with being more accurate. You know, fingers crossed if that day comes. But yeah, I mean, I've never been one to like insult fans who like the movies. You know,
Sure.
I've always gotten along with people just fine. It's just my personal preference. That's all. So you know, we want everybody here is our philosophy. So, but yeah, that's just my view on the movie and what kind of sparked the whole chain of events.
Okay.
And I've never seen the Netflix series. I have no interest.
Yeah, you just save yourself the time. Just save yourself the time.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love Lance Reddick.
Oh, he's an
And
amazing actor.
He's an amazing
He was the
actor.
best
Like,
part of the show. But
he?
the material of like of what they were trying to do just didn't really fit the vibe of Resident Evil. You know.
I just saw that it was about like preteens, and then there was this lady dancing to show tunes, and she
Mhm.
had this weird crazy look in her face. I'm like, how how do you play a Resident Evil game and come up with that in your mind? Preteens and show tunes. Like, what are you playing the same game?
It was almost like Degrassi with Resident Evil. You know, it was almost like, what am I watching here? You know what I
What
mean?
game did you play?
Yeah.
Did you play Resident Evil? Like, I've never seen that in a Resident Evil game.
No, they saw the
Oh,
dogs. They saw some giant worms, and they're like, all right, let's put that in there, but let's also just put all this other irrelevant crap in there that just dragged on. And again,
whatever.
using that material should have just been actually from the games, because then they could have stretched that out into something good. Maybe if they took the time to establish what Welcome to Raccoon City tried to fit in one movie to spread it out as a show. I feel like
Yeah.
that could have worked better, but then yeah, like you said, they would have just added some other unnecessary crap in there. Getting talent on board, especially like Charlie, like how was that process when you approached him about playing the Keeper in this upcoming project?
It was interesting. So when I first started this, I mean, I had no notoriety. I'm just a guy in southern Utah that, I'm just a dude. Nobody knows me. Um,
Hmm.
so after I saw the movie, I don't know how long after, I just wrote up a little script. I actually found that I had written a script back in like 2017, and I was skimming through it yesterday, and it's like almost exactly the same. Like, it was just in my head.
Wow.
But I mean, it's literally just from the game. It's like I didn't really write much to deviate from it, you know.
Sure.
So it's like it's all there. But I wrote the script. I contacted a lot of YouTubers, and the only ones I heard back from were, I think it was JJ first, and then Krishamir, and then JJ. You know, he liked the idea, but he was doing the same thing at the time with Sean Liebert, um, who did Arklay. So I understood, no big deal. And then Chris Shamir got back with me, and he was all for it. So we decided to, or I decided to make a storyboard video with a little pitch to upload to his channel, Theatrical Chicken. So we did that, and it really kind of wasn't making a dent. So I told him, I'm like, all right, dude, I gotta film like a teaser or something to get some kind of traction going. And I reached out. I asked a bunch of people I worked with at first, some people I knew in other parts of the country, if they wanted to play the Keeper. And then I reached out to Pablo Kunst, and he was interested, but he couldn't just because of he had stuff going on at the time, and I think there was COVID travel restrictions. Um, so then I reached out to both Eric Pirius and Charlie online, and they both emailed me at the same time or replied to my email, and um, they were all for it. And then Charlie gave me Greg's contact information, and I sent him a message, and miraculously got them all here last June. And not that anyone is more passionate than the other, but Charlie is just the most, interested and dedicated and driven um, to be in the project. And I think Greg really wants to be a part of it too, but um, with him being in Australia, it's just a little difficult, and I don't want to have I don't want to flood it with too many things to distract from the film. But Charlie Charlie has just been there every step of the way. Very blessed to have Charlie with us. So, but from there, it kind of blew up online from some like behind the scenes photos, and then everybody started writing about it, and then JJ got back in contact with me. He's like, "Was this you?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then we just started chatting, and between Krishmir and Andy Sperling and we decided to upload the whole slew of videos I shot last June onto JJ's channel, because obviously he's got the biggest platform. And JJ's been nothing but the kindest person and most, generous and all this stuff I've ever seen, allowing us to use his platform to do all of this stuff, and I just met him. I didn't really know, I'm just meeting everybody over the last year. So, but yeah, from there, he made me a road team member, which is super fun because I feel like I've made some really good friends with everyone on the road team. And then everything kind of started to be it proved to be a little difficult logistically to do in Germany. So I decided to part ways with Andy and Krishimir, in a good way. I mean, we're all still friends. I was just chatting with Andy the other day, and
I didn't know he was in Germany. Wow,
yeah,
that been... Okay.
Yeah. It was just proven to be a little too difficult. But yeah, and then I started talking with Andy from BioHazard Declassified, and I was just like, "Do you know anything about crowdfunding?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, "You want to, launch the campaign, set it up?" And it kind of just, it just picked up from there essentially, because I would have never known where to begin with setting up a crowdfunding. He just boop 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 everything, and then he started, suggesting another cinematographer and suggesting another person here and another person there, and he was just on it. So really blessed to have him a part of the team as well. And look at where we are now. So
Right.
it's really nothing short of a miracle, especially when we got that email from Capcom.
Yes. Can we talk about this a little bit? Is that possible? I know we can't go
Yeah.
fully into it, but we can. Yes, we did. Capcom did reach out about this film to kind of see what was going on. And I woke up and I was on California time, but I woke up and I saw Andy's message, and he's just like, "We're good." Like he says. So what was? Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Just to be clear, we're not endorsed by them. We're not affiliated with them.
No, we're not.
They never gave us a green light. We never approached them. They just wanted to know what's going on.
Yeah,
they wanted to make sure.
What is this?
They wanted to make sure we're not interfering with their IP, and that all of our funds are going to be allocated towards production costs and whatnot.
Right.
So, which we've made very clear in the campaign and the video, and but yeah, we answered their questions, and they feel that we're not doing anything to interfere with them or harm them in any way. So they didn't feel a need to shut anything down, which is good. So that should definitely not be looked at as an endorsement or a green light or anything. It's
Right.
just they're them, we're us. We're
Yes.
our own separate thing. They're their thing. This is just a fan film,
That's it.
fan fiction. It's going to be a small independent project inspired by stuff that they do. So, um,
And intended
yeah.
to become a cult classic.
Yes.
Cult classic. It's something, man. It's crazy how far. I mean, I started this stuff like almost 2 years ago. I would have never imagined in my wildest dreams I'd be sitting here talking to you guys or working with Charlie. Um, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, where it seems very just kind of wild, because when I started the channel, like, 13 years ago, I just kind of was just someone who loved the franchise, but I kind of wanted a platform just to, create Let's Plays, do commentary over some Resident Evil games, and do some podcasts and stuff like that. And yeah, like just the way of meeting everyone through the community through the years, and being able to make this kind of like a real ultimate collaboration between RE channels and people like yourselves, like, that are just so dedicated and passionate about it. And yeah, I mean, this is, and hopefully I'll be able to, as far as like JJ, like I've known him for over 10 years, but I've never actually met him in person, just through online or podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The last time he was on this show, the last time he was on an episode, I think Residents of Evil maybe had a couple thousand subscribers. Like, and I mean a couple thousand, now they're the biggest, channel. So I just, so that's incredible, but it's cool to see that, like, this would be a project that is like, like, finally I'm able to meet, I was able to meet Nuji and Andy last year and then hang out with them again this year. And then that's when Andy was talking a lot more about this project that you're doing. And then, he kind of really filled me in on a lot more. And obviously then he talked to Nuji about stuff. So it was just like, it just seemed like the perfect storm, and the time is right for us to kind of come together and make this, something that is an ultimate collaboration. And then also just from the heart,
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And, for Charlie, what has you most excited about, just to be a part of this project? Like, what has you really stoked to kind of get involved in this thing?
Well, what you've just said, I guess, like, it seems like I'm the catalyst that's brought all these, people together. And all I can hope for now is, that Andrew can make me look really good. Because literally they could just put anybody in front of the camera and make them look amazing with all the stuff they do. But I hope that, just the nostalgia of it being me, and maybe I still have a few tricks left up my sleeve as well. And, we can just like make this some, just one for the history books. I think, we're aiming high. Like, we're not just aiming to be the best, Resident Evil themed fan made film ever. We're just going to try and be the best fan made film ever.
Right.
About anything.
Just trying to set that bar.
That's the bar. Yeah, I'm not sure
we're going high,
but that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's great to have that mindset too, just to be like, hey, we can really make something that is going to be, very special and very memorable. And like you said, are going to try to make something that people look back on and be like, man, like, this is something that I think a lot of people, especially now where it's so easy for, people just jump on a platform and put something together or piece something together that is like, RE inspired or something that can be, easily edited together. But this is something where we're really trying to take things to the next level on a production standpoint, and just not make it just, something we, shot in a day or something and posted it online. Because some people, you can make films with an iPhone now, you know, but it's like we're trying to really show, you know, especially with everyone we have involved, that this is something we're really trying to take to the next level. And like you said, it's showing that the fans and the community really pulled through with this, just being a, you know, something that they saw what we were doing and saw everyone that was attached, and they knew that we were serious about this. With the whole horror film, you know, genre, do you guys have a certain genre of horror films that you kind of gravitate towards, or whether it's like, you know, psychological, or like, you know, or fan of slashers? Like, I know you said The Shining, Andrew, you mentioned, but what about you know, any others that kind of are some of your favorites when it comes to the horror genre? Because I think nowadays horror films can, you know, still be hit or miss. Some of them are requels, they're remakes still of certain things, but, you know, do you guys still have you know, a favorite genre that you always kind of go back to or look forward to?
I loved Creepshow, and I didn't even, you know, associate that with George Romero at the time I was watching it. So
Right.
it's only like now, you know, like looking back going, oh, okay. You know, and I think that's why a lot of people don't recognize his name. It's like he's there, he's always been there. And he's just one of those guys that was under the radar, just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, just like Bruce Campbell, everything Bruce Campbell, amazing.
Hell yeah.
Sam Raimi. I especially love like The Quick and the Dead from Sam Raimi. I just love that film. And that's not a horror film, I guess, but just because it's Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
But anything Stephen King related, you know,
Oh,
some of them
yeah.
are really awful, you know, like, but like even like the original, you know, Children of the Corn, like when I was that age, like, you know, I was probably watching it when I was 13 late at night, and it was a creepy movie. You know, I love all the, mostly just the originals of franchises, but like the first Omen, the first one,
yeah.
and two Omen movies, Rosemary's Baby, you know, The Exorcist. I mean, it's just goes on and on and on. So I took all the good ones. Sorry, Andrew.
No, I mean, I'm in the same boat. A lot of those are also my favorite horror films too. I mean, I was a big Carpenter guy personally, with
Me too.
Halloween and The Thing especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, a lot of those movies are also, I mean, I grew up with all those movies, so.
Yeah, I enjoyed Freddy Krueger too, and I don't know, I mean,
Yeah, Wes
yeah.
Craven. Hit that and Scream. I like the original Scream movies.
Absolutely.
Pretty good.
Exactly, original. The original one was good. The rest of them were just
I've
like,
seen
oh,
the
really?
newer ones.
I saw the latest one. I was just like, really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this is so bad.
I don't know.
But,
It's just not the same. It's
I
the
went
same
and
thing
saw that
with.
with that. I saw that with Andy and Anka when they were visiting me, because
Oh,
it
did
just
you?
come out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
It's
oh
it's
no,
just
thank.
not the same because, you know, unfortunately, Wes Craven passed away a while ago.
Yeah, well, whenever it's like part 16, you know, it's just never,
Well, I think he made
never going to be any good.
3 or 4.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
he made
But,
4, and then he got sick shortly after that. He said he was going on vacation, and then I think he just never really. I think he did the last one he did was My Soul to Take or something like that. And that wasn't very good, but it just sucks that he never got a chance to like be around to, if they were to make a Scream 5 and try to keep it going, that he wasn't around to kind of put his vision on it, because, you know, I know they still had
Like,
similar.
it's his baby. It's the same thing with, like how I said with Star Wars, you know. It's,
Right.
I don't know if you could classify it in horror at all, but like Pan's Labyrinth for me, like the visuals, and I think, did you still not see that yet, Andrew? I gave you that assignment to see Pan's Labyrinth.
Maybe.
He said maybe.
But yeah, it's like, it's one of those movies, the less you know about it, the better before you go into it, and just some really amazing visuals. And I don't know, you know, everything's so political today, so that you can't even like a certain director sometimes. But I like him. I think he's good.
I haven't seen this yet. I know what it is now because I just googled
Yeah.
the pictures, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. I
And
think.
this,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in the Pinocchio movie, like he did, 14 years of work to make that happen. Which, oh my God, it's all this stop motion, but
Yeah.
it was a 14-year project, which I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
dedicating your life 14 years to a stop motion
Yeah.
thing. But and it was good. But I like his style, and he had I remember he also had I don't know if it's still on. He had like Alfred Hitchcock's Presents kind of style show that he had started too, which was
Was that
okay. Yeah,
Guillermo del Toro?
yeah, Guillermo del Toro Presents or something like that. I think it was on
Yeah.
HBO or somewhere.
I like some of his movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the eras, especially, where we had things that were kind of like the first of their kind, or certain things that just always kept trying to be imitated but never really,
Hmm.
replicated in that way. Like, you have stuff like you mentioned, The Exorcist, and obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of
Yeah.
the Living Dead. These films that, like, it's just they've always been redone or done millions of times over, but there's just something so unique about them at that time, and when they came out, and then even
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
stuff come out in in the 90s, right in the early 90s or the mid 90s, when Scream kind of brought it back, because horror kind of like withered away in the early 90s, and then seeing kind of Scream come back. And like Scream, for me, the first one was a huge gateway for me, because I was obviously like younger at the time, and early 2000s, like getting like VHS, going to the video store, renting stuff, and that was like my gateway. That's what got me into horror. And my dad would say, "Oh, you got to see this film," and then he, because he would let me just rent whatever. And same thing with video games. It's like Resident Evil was just kind of there, and I would watch him play it, and then I would also try to play it. So it was kind of like just between Resident Evil and horror, and going and like renting those things, like that pretty much just made up everything that I love. It's still to this day, and when I'm making videos on and doing stuff that's associated with it. So it's just kind of funny how that kind of all stemmed from that time, and my
Yeah.
love from those films, just watching them over and over and over again, and learning from, and Halloween, that's like my favorite film, period, so seen that a million
Really?
times. Yeah. So big
Mhm.
fan of Carpenter, big fan of, like I said, even the Italian directors like Fulci and Argento, and I love stuff from the 70s and 80s. It's just it's all
Yeah.
it all is like Zombies, one of my favorite films too. I just think there's so much to take in from those different eras that I think is kind of lost now, where everything
Yeah.
is obviously like a sequel, or the remake, or the prequel, requel, whatever you want to call it. So I think
Right.
it kind of gets a little watered down. And just filmmaking today in general, or the films, I'd say in most cases, are just kind of rehashing the same stuff. So it's really hard to see original ideas, or something that's very memorable, something you can walk away and be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I want to
Mhm.
see that again. So yeah, it's been very, very much of a disappointment in the last handful of years in Hollywood, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember.
It's
I
just
remember when.
miserable.
Yeah. I remember when the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out,
Yes.
and I think I saw the original after I saw the remake. I instantly fell in love with the original. Instantly fell in love with the original.
Mm-hmm.
The I didn't hate the remake, but I think the one thing that really made the movie special about the remake was R. Lee Ermey. He
Oh
made
yeah.
that movie.
Oh, so good.
He set that movie. He made that movie different in its own way, in a good way.
They
You know
made
what I
the
mean?
family a little bit different in that too. Like the Sawyers compared to the Hewitts, right? It was like they kind of had a different dynamic with those characters, or with the like
Yeah.
how the family interacted, right? So yeah, that's a good point. It's almost like, yeah, he kind of came in and was like that one different thing that kind of worked in
Yeah.
that thing,
Yeah.
and that whole thing, because they were like, all right, we're gonna have this similar story of teenagers in the van, whatever. But then it's like, yeah, then he comes in, you're just like, what the hell is
He
that?
just
Like,
added just a totally new, different level to that movie.
yeah, that's one of
He
the
was
better
such
remakes
a
from that
Yeah.
time. You know?
Yeah. He was such a great actor.
Yeah, it really was. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was one of the. I know a lot of people put that movie over more nowadays, but I know even back then when I saw it, right after seeing the original, I was younger, but I saw the original and I was like, oh man, I was like, all for it. But then, yeah, when you keep watching, the then they do a sequel to that remake, and then it's worse, and then they do they've remade Leatherface a million times at this point, and unfortunately he's the dude that doesn't really catch a break now. Leatherface, I mean, Jason's been in a lawsuit for years, and the horror genre has gone through peaks and valleys, but now it's trying to find that that middle ground with trying to bring back, especially with the new Exorcist film, they're trying to bring that back to, oh, well, it's a direct sequel to the first one. So there was Exorcist 2 and 3 and 2 prequels, but now it's like the direct sequel. So they're doing that thing now, and they're bringing, everyone back, and they're old, and, they do that thing. So
that can work and not work.
Yeah, like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018, that was fine. But then by the time you get to Halloween Ends and you see how bad they messed up that script, and now the same person, David Gordon Green, is in charge of this Exorcist sequel, it just seems very, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it, but unfortunately that's kind of where we're at with the horror genre. So I think it's a lot of the as far as filmmaking in a horror realm or horror sense, I think it's more, you have to kind of look a little bit to try to find. I saw Talk to Me, and that was actually pretty decent. A24 put that out, so that was actually kind of cool. It was a little confusing towards the end. It wasn't like a perfect film, but I saw that and I was like, okay, that's kind of very unique. But you got to search for some stuff now that's really memorable,
One recent one I saw that I really liked. I don't know the director's name. I'm terrible with names.
That's fine. There's a lot of directors in movies.
Yeah, the dude that made Hereditary and Midsummer.
Ari Aster, right?
Is that his name?
Something like that, yeah.
Those two movies I thought were really good, modern horror movies.
I would agree. Yeah, I saw Hereditary with a group of friends when we watched that. And it was we all didn't watch it before. So, and it was a few years after it came out, but we weren't spoiled. And we were screaming at the television. It was a moment where it was almost like watching Exorcist for the first time. I'm not comparing the two, but you get what I'm saying, where it's you just remember it so well after you turn it off. And then you watch it a second time and you notice more things that you didn't notice before. So I like that. And then, Midsommar was also just a crazy trip, quite literally. So
very similar to the Wicker Man.
Yes,
the original Wicker Man.
The original Wicker Man. Yes, the best one. Not the bear punching scene or the Nicolas Cage bee scene one. No, the original Wicker Man. That is incredible and clearly influenced Resident Evil 4, going back to Mikami being influenced by certain eras in film. RE4 kind of being his final stamp. It's kind of funny that they went back and they kind of took that whole idea and kind of put that RE spin on it, but obviously put the parasites and updated everything in RE4. But it's just a cool snapshot in time to see those films that were so iconic, And I just think that things come in waves, and especially with certain genres of film, I think it's interesting to see kind of what they do next. But I'm always looking at the smaller films or films that people usually don't have the eye on, that sometimes end up being pretty good, or sometimes you do see something that's a big budget film and you're like, oh yeah, that was actually really, really good or impactful. But it's hard to find that nowadays.
We're in this weird time in history where everything is on your phone now, everything is on your TV now. Why take a risk and invest in this movie when you're going to make $1 billion on a Spider-Man film? You know what I mean? So
right. And then streaming adds a different side of things too, where I think films made for, streaming services or things that are, so it's now it's a very weird time where you're going to see a lot more
content.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Content.
Quantity over quality now.
Yeah.
What can we get out there? You know what I mean? It's whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to save money on cable, and right when you started to do that, then you got to sign up for 7 or 8 services just to get everything you want to watch, And now it's the content seems to be, yeah, kind of just there's so much, and a lot of it you just kind of don't even, by the time you're looking to find something to watch, you already give up because you're like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm looking at. A lot of it just seems the same, or it just seems very like, it just doesn't seem interesting. So yeah, I agree. I think that kind of craft of making something that is a little bit more grounded and less like overproduced is very few and far between, unfortunately. You know, but that's the thing too. It's like now, if content runs dry and everything that's going on over there with the actors and stuff like that and what's going on, I don't want to, we don't have to go completely into that, but it's more just like, it's interesting to see how this stuff will dry up and what's going to happen now that everything's kind of halted. It's going to be very interesting because now it's going to be like 2007, 2008, where we just get more reality shows and garbage, continuous garbage. So it's like, I just don't even really, I'm just so disconnected from that. So I think us just being, people who enjoy good films or filmmakers like ourselves that are just trying to, do our own projects or do things that are, that are something we would want to see, just start putting our stuff out there. And I think that's a big thing that I think people will start seeing in the next few years, is just like a lot more filmmakers kind of just breaking out of this crap that we're getting in, this cycle, and trying to break out and do something more unique, a little bit more memorable. As far as the Keeper's Diary and everything that's going on with the funding, like I said, it's still going on as of this recording. I think by the time you guys see this, there might be 7, maybe 6 days left by the time I post this. So, I obviously want to let people know that, you could still go on there and support the film if you want to, still, have some kind of association with this thing to help us get this thing, obviously even over the goal, because all that stuff will help, like you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to obviously, be a part of this. And like I said, I'm still kind of in shock, to be honest, tonight, just to kind of like the fact that we're here and it's going on, you know what I mean? Like, we're having this conversation. Like, man, pinching
I was
myself.
thinking it was going to go down to the wire. I was thinking we're going to be, waiting until a couple days before. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised, and it's time to get to work, Andrew.
Yeah.
We actually have to do it now.
Yeah. Work has to be done.
Not wrong. You are not wrong. Yeah, I already got my 2 weeks off from work, so I kept telling my boss, I'm like, these are the weeks. So
yeah, it's like, I will not be around for that. Yeah, it's like, I will be focused on this project. Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, just laser focused, and I'll be driving from South Jersey to Michigan, so that's like a 13-hour drive for me. So I'm looking forward to the long drive.
I think Andrew's driving the sets there himself, right? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, I got I'm going to repurpose some of the stuff that I have in my storage unit from last year, so I'm going to be throwing it all in a U-Haul and driving across country with it.
Yeah, so I was thinking that might be a fun adventure. I'm going to try and join him for that if I can.
That'd be so cool to like see you guys just like kind of vlogging your process, of that trip, get some behind the scenes stuff.
Oh yeah.
Get from point A to point B. Yeah,
and then when we're all done, I'm going to make him drive right back to California and use the same set to turn my garage into the set for the Keeper.
Oh, there you go.
I am permanently have that thing.
Right?
I am leaving it there. I am done with it. JJ can have it. I've been paying for that thing for a year. I don't want to pay for it.
Sorry, that's a deal breaker. Sorry, I'm out.
Oh, darn it. All right, I'll just give you a couple grand to go buy some plywood yourself.
Do you think like that's been like one of the more challenging things has been like building a set? Has that been one of the more challenging like things for you, or what do you think's been?
I don't think so. I've kind of worked with woodworking and different odd jobs here and there in the past, so I actually kind of enjoyed doing it. I didn't really find it too difficult. I think the most difficult thing was just trying to get everything together and starting from scratch, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just trying to keep it moving and keep the momentum moving and pushing people to do this and that and whatever. That's definitely by far the most difficult part, and it's not over.
Right.
Can't we just hire like 100 interns, not pay them anything, and have them do a bunch of stuff for us?
That would be nice. It's gonna be nice. We do have a lot of help, hands on set, so that'll be nice. I'm just so used to doing a lot of this stuff myself. So like when they were here last June, I did everything in preparation, and then when we filmed, I had like 2-3 guys with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just so used to doing the lighting, the camera, the
DIY,
directing,
right?
the sound, and blah blah blah. But and I think it'll be nice. I think it'll be probably the first time I will have ever experienced being able to focus on just one thing. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
That's a good point, because that's kind of how I feel with a lot of the things that I do over here, just kind of like, DIY or trying to cast, a couple people, or trying to do stuff with what you have.
Yeah.
And then when you start to kind of like, this will be the first time that, I've worked with a team that's, this big. So it'll be a really cool experience for me to also just learn the craft and even further, and just be able to see it from that perspective. So I think for me, that's why this is a really important project that I definitely take very seriously, because I really just want to be able to be on that side of things and do the best that I can. And I think that's, like you said, like there's the team aspect of it. It's like it's kind of like that's kind of part of it, right? It's like trying to get everything, everyone where they need to be, but also just like we're all in this together to make something awesome, to make something incredible, and to make it all go smoothly. So it's like we have each other's backs. That's what it's about.
Yeah. No. And we're glad to have you on board too. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And and I just, even like seeing like the I know you put up the behind the scenes of like you building that set from last year, I believe it was. And that was just really cool to see that, go down, and like the way like things are obviously going to be presented, with this film. That's a great indication of what you shot. And again, it's made everyone really excited to just, see this thing. Like you said, we're going to be shooting late October. So it's happening. We're going to do this thing. And it's again, still kind of crazy, still pinching myself that we're doing this, and I really hope everyone gets excited. And, obviously if you're listening or watching, like I said, you can still get in on some of the perks that are available. There's still some spots there, so every little bit helps. And what are we at exactly at this moment? I'm gonna pull it up here.
Finally, while we were streaming, we crossed 44,000.
44,000. That's.
Yeah.
And we've got what, 8 days left or something?
9.
9 days left. Wow. So sky's the limit, folks.
Sky is the limit.
Yeah.
That's
110%.
That's incredible. That's just.
Yeah, I've never been 110% at anything in my life before, so this is
Well, you are now.
groundbreaking.
110%, man.
You are now, baby.
That's wild.
I've got 110% attitude all the time. You know,
yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah,
but
it's nuts, guys.
I think
it's crazy.
I think this is just an indication that we just haven't gotten the word out far enough. And once we do, like, the sky's the limit for, making a series, our Resurrection series, or making other films, or even original content. I think,
yeah,
it's absolute relief that we're funded, and I'm ecstatic. I'm like over the moon.
Yeah, yep. Definitely. And like you said, it's going to open a lot of doors, I think, for more opportunities, from this. So this is a very special moment, and I'm very grateful. So, it's incredible. And of course, the fans out there, everyone that's listening and watching, if you even if you haven't, donated, even if you just shared, retweeted, repost, whatever you want to call it nowadays, posting on all the social medias, like it all helps to get the word out there, and yeah, that's the best part about social media nowadays when you're actually using it for productive things. It's like this, where it's like it gets the word out there. It's a direct feed to the fans, and it's great. And it was a very successful campaign. And I guess we can start with Andrew. Let everyone know where everyone can find you, where they can follow the pages on social media.
Yeah. So you can, for the actual campaign page, you can just go on Indiegogo, type in The Keeper's Diary. It should be the first thing that pops up. If you're interested, you can go on there, see that we have all kinds of cool perks available. Anything from your name in the credits or all the way to an executive producer credit. So we have all kinds of options: posters, signed copies of the script, T-shirt, cameos from Charlie. So yeah, check it out, and if it's something you're into, go ahead, feel free to donate. And if you're not able to donate, don't freak out. It's no big deal, not the end of the world. Just sharing the link, and like you said, just sharing it and getting it out there.
Yeah, and just because we've already reached our goal doesn't mean you can't keep supporting us, and that might mean just a few extra Subway sandwiches here and there. These things all cost money, but I mean mainly, it's about post-production kind of stuff. That's where the money all goes. So the more we can raise, even above our goal, we might have a more polished look to the film. So please don't hesitate. Just because we've already reached our goal, if you want us to really sparkle, just keep giving.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to check out the socials, it's at The Keeper's Diary, all lowercase, no space, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok.
There you go. And Charlie, where can everyone find you?
So I always just keep it really simple. You can find me at just Charlie Kraslavsky, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, or I actually even started a TikTok, although I swear I don't dance. I just kill zombies. Twitter, they're all either just like Charlie Kraslavsky or Charlie.Kraslavsky. It should be pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
Cool deal. Yeah, and thanks again, guys, for coming on just to shoot the shit for a little bit, just talking about just Resident Evil and films, and this is very fun. So hopefully we can do it again, or maybe we can. I mean, I know it's gonna be busy when we're filming. But I was gonna say maybe one day we could do something like this in person. That'd be really cool. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can have an actual private screening of The Keeper. That could be a cool thing where we could all assemble.
Yeah, that'd be really
cool. Tokyo. Let's do it in Tokyo.
Oh, man, that's a far trip. For a 10, 20, 15-minute movie, whatever. That's a long way.
I love to go see Japan one day. One day.
We go back to the Tama River, and we buy a projector and we just shine it against a building.
Oh God!
Somewhere in that same neighborhood where we shot it.
That would be a dream.
Talk about a special screening, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't remember exactly where it was is the problem. But I've had so many people ask me, I was like, where was it? It's the Tama River. Sorry, that's all I know.
Just around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, again, thank you guys for this, and we'll like I said, we'll definitely do something soon, or even if it's just another podcast like this, and once we get everything done or promoting it coming out, and just thanks for everyone. Thanks for all the fans out there who obviously support all of what we do and just the channel, and appreciate you guys again coming on, and for everyone watching or listening. We will catch everyone in the next one. Take care.
Bye.